According to the Conference Board of Canada, Canada's GDP growth has remained sluggish compared to that of the US, with productivity levels falling behind by nearly 25%.
Add to that other growth challenges that Canada might face,
Mhm.
which is the US tariffs. If they become a reality, they might further dent Canada's growth by 1 to 2%.
Hmm.
That'll be a massive hit to our small and medium-sized businesses.
A recent study by Deloitte found that companies investing in talent development and leadership training, they grow 2.3% faster than other competitors.
When we are assessing the mindset, we are looking for key characteristics such as independence, innovation, rewarding of risks, and swift action, because that really tells us that the organization is ready or not for growth.
Canada's high growth businesses account for only 18% of all companies, but they create over 50% of new jobs. If you're looking to scale, investing in strategy, people, and execution is the key to long term success. Hi, I'm Kripa Anand, and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast, where we bring industry experts and business leaders to share insights that help small and medium sized businesses thrive. Today, we're discussing one of the most pressing challenges in Canada's business landscape: growth. According to the Conference Board of Canada, Canada's GDP growth has remained sluggish compared to that of the US, with productivity levels falling behind by nearly 25%. And according to a report by BDC, only 18% of small businesses in Canada achieve high growth, highlighting the need for better planning, people strategies, and execution models. Joining us today to break down these challenges is Nida Haque from the Black Box Institute, a boutique advisory firm and think tank specializing in business growth, strategy, and execution. With expertise in solving complex business challenges, Nida helps organizations develop sustainable plans for long term success. We'll be diving into the three key pillars of designing for growth: people, planning, and execution. Let's explore what's holding businesses back and how they can overcome these challenges to scale successfully. Welcome to the show, Nida. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Kripa.
Great.
It's a
It's
pleasure
our
to be here.
pleasure to have you here. Now, today's conversation I'm very excited about because there are so many things that we have to cover. Just to, warm up the conversation, let's start by discussing growth as a challenge for Canadian businesses. Now, Canada's small business sector represents 98% of all businesses, right? That's a pretty big number. Yet, economic growth has slowed, with productivity levels, trailing behind with global competitors. Nida, in your view, why is growth, such a challenge for Canadian businesses today?
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about something that we are very passionate about, growth.
Mhm.
Canada's performance, frankly, has been underwhelming, and it's not new news. It's just affecting us right now. We're really feeling the pinch of the low growth environment. One critical data point that you've mentioned, which we also track, is the number of percentage of small businesses that exist in Canada, and which really tells you that it's been a massive problem for a long time coming where small
Right.
businesses have not been able to scale up. Um, Add to that other growth challenges that Canada might face,
Mhm.
which is the US tariffs.
Right.
If they become a reality, they might further dent Canada's growth by 1 to 2%.
Hmm.
That'll be a massive hit to our small and medium sized businesses.
Right.
We know that a major reason for Canada's lack of growth are structural issues,
Mhm.
are outdated policies, tax structures, underinvestment in technology,
Right.
lack of innovation. However, only these structural issues cannot explain lack of Canada's growth.
Hmm.
We know we have the talent. We know we have a very diverse talent in Canada,
Right.
which is the main ingredient for growth. However, we are pointing towards our culture of conservatism,
Mhm.
risk aversion, and slow action is one of the key factors that's impeding our growth. As an example, about a decade ago, Canada was one of the first countries to announce a nationwide AI strategy.
Right.
However, as of last year, only about 3 to 5% of all Canadian businesses had some sort of AI adoption.
Right. It
This
was
just
pretty recent.
shows
Yeah.
you, yeah, this just shows you how slow we are to act on certain things that we want to lead in this world.
Right. That's definitely a key issue that you mentioned here. Now, Canadian businesses, they are known for resilience, but there's clearly a gap in unlocking, sustained growth. Now, when we look at other markets, such as the US, the approach to growth and productivity, it differs a lot, right? I'd love to, get your thoughts on this comparison. How does Canada's growth, compare to other countries like the US specifically? And also, what can we, learn from them as a lesson?
For sure. So when we talk about growth, we can't talk about growth without talking about productivity.
Yeah, right,
As you've already mentioned, the difference in Canadian productivity and American productivity is about 25%.
right.
This roughly translates into about $20,000 per person per year,
Hmm.
which roughly translates into about an 8% decrease in compensations in Canada
Hmm.
versus the American counterparts. Now, an easy win is to just bridge this productivity gap so
Right,
that we can all have economic prosperity.
right,
Now, we have the natural resources and we have the talent that is available that the world is looking for. We also have access to attractive markets, our good relationships in Europe, in Asia, and our proximity to one of the biggest trade partners in US.
hmm,
It's an envy of the world.
right,
So, just changing structural things in Canada, such as updating our policies or making more investments in innovation and technology, is probably not the answer to solving our growth problems. We have a tool that is
hmm,
available to all of us, which is not even a tool, it's just a mindset. It is having a bold mindset, which is very prevalent in the US. And that is one of the key factors that allows companies in that country to grow. If we as Canadians adopted a bold mindset, had ambitious plans, were willing to take risks, embrace change and uncertainty, and really relentlessly push boundaries to execute on our plans,
hmm.
we can solve the growth challenge.
Wow, that was very well articulated. It's clear that, while growth is a challenge, businesses that adapt and plan strategically, they can create real opportunities. Canada's high growth businesses account for only 18% of all companies, but they create over 50% of new jobs. If you're looking to scale, investing in strategy, people, and execution is the key to long term success. Now, speaking of strategy, let's talk about the role of people in driving business growth, right? Now, a recent study by Deloitte found that companies investing in talent development and leadership training, they grow 2.3% faster than, other competitors. Now, how does the way, a business organizes its people impact its ability to grow? Where does the people part come into play?
Oh, I've spoken a couple of times now
Yeah.
about how people really, really provide growth impetus to a firm.
Hmm.
When we look at firms, we are really trying to assess two aspects of the people in the organization.
Right.
One is the mindset and
Hmm.
the beliefs and behaviors that they have. And the second one is the structure under which they're organized.
Right.
When we study the mindset of the organization, we conduct an assessment we like to call the corporate archaeology. It is but a study of the evolution of the business and its people
Right.
and things that shape how the business operates.
That's a very interesting thing. I'll definitely, copy this from you as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's trademark, but happy to share it with you.
Yeah.
When we are assessing the mindset, we're looking for key characteristics such
Mhm.
as independence, innovation, rewarding of risks, and swift action,
Mhm.
because that really tells us that the organization is ready or not for growth.
Right.
To be in a bold mindset, companies really understand that prudent risk taking is essential.
Right.
They understand that innovation carries risk.
Hmm.
Not all good risks are going to work out,
Right.
but the ones that do really set the foundation for long term success.
Right.
It is what Silicon Valley companies champion, the fail fast, fail cheap philosophy. The other key element of growth is the organization of people.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of times when businesses are early in their life cycle, the founder or founders
Mhm.
have an oversized impact on the success of the firm. They're very hands-on the day-to-day operations,
Right.
but they're also making all the critical decisions in the organization.
Hmm.
As these businesses scale up,
Hmm.
the structure starts to become a bottleneck because the
Hmm.
founders only have a limited amount of time and energy.
Right.
As an example, we were working with an organization that quickly grew from a 5-person firm to a 25-person firm,
Wow.
but they weren't seeing any substantial growth. And it was because they were missing out on opportunities that were presenting themselves
Hmm.
because the founders were involved in the day-to-day business. It took us a lot of time and effort to get the founders to understand that they need to expand their management team
Hmm.
and share some of the decision-making responsibilities. As soon as they started to trust their people and share some of these responsibilities, they
Right.
were able to attack all of the growth opportunities that came their way. So structures, they need to evolve as businesses evolve in its life cycle.
That's a pretty powerful example because, as business people or as an entrepreneur, you're often trying to do everything yourself. You're juggling between so many hats that it is very important to realize that giving someone else, someone responsible, of course, the authority, the decision making power will eventually ease out your task and it will help you focus on things that actually matter, that is, growing your business, right? Now, we often see that, companies with strong leadership structures and talent pipelines are better positioned to scale. Now that brings us to the next question of talent development. It's an area where many businesses hesitate to invest upfront. Now, Nada, what are some of the benefits organizations can expect by investing in talent development?
Some things you've already touched on, it is really the growth driver. So
Right.
in our experience in working with businesses, it is the number one priority for most businesses.
Hmm.
It is also an area where we see a significant amount of expenditure happening from businesses on the areas of talent and people development. Um, but not all talent development plans really reap the benefit or provide the growth that is necessary for the business. And in our experience, really, there are three main factors that limit the success of these programs.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is that these programs do not have the context of the growth plan that the organization is trying to pursue.
Hmm.
What these programs try to do is boil the ocean, cover all the complex aspects of leadership standards,
Right.
and not focusing on the small set of competencies that can have the biggest impact on the
Right.
business journey of that organization.
Hmm.
The second key challenge is there's a lot of academic classroom learning. However, there is no practical application of these learnings to solve real-time issues that the workplace is facing.
Hmm.
And finally, a lot of the programs are really, really good in developing new skills and competencies,
Okay.
but they overlook the mental training that is needed to get people into the bold and the growth mindset.
Right.
Because without that,
It's a
gr-
mindset shift, right?
it's a mindset shift.
Hmm.
And so while companies really need the talent development and skill and competency building, um, organizations need to find a way to have a shifting mindset.
Right. Very rightly said. Developing the right team, it's crucial, but even with, a strong workforce, businesses need a clear and effective growth plan, to scale successfully eventually. Before we move forward, let's take a short break. Stay with us as we discuss how planning plays a critical role in scaling businesses effectively.
Hey, you think you know UPS? Yeah, that's us. Everybody knows that. You know what you didn't know? This. Okay, try to keep up. Ocean, us. Ground, rail, air, so us. Guess who? Us. Customs cleared, borders cleared, done. Us. Still with me? Wait for it. Boom. Us. Intelligent, automated, fulfillment. Us. Yep. Healthcare too. Digital your thing? Yeah? Well, book it, ship it, track it. You feeling me yet? Yep. That's all us. That's all UPS.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, we're in the business of you.
We're here to help you plug in,
Connect and recharge.
make an impression.
and meet with confidence.
With 19 brands built for business,
your business gets even more rewarding.
With an award-winning loyalty program at 6,000 IHG hotels and resorts worldwide.
All right, welcome back, listeners. Now let's dive into a fundamental pillar of business growth: planning. A great strategy is key, but what separates successful companies is how they plan and execute. Now let's explore that next and shift our focus to that 100%. Now I was doing some research before this, and according to the Harvard Business Review, 67% of well formulated business strategies, they fail. Why? Because they get poor execution. Often it stems from weak planning. That's the most common root of it. Now earlier that you mentioned that planning is one of the biggest challenges in business growth. Now, Nida, what goes into effective growth planning?
Absolutely. I think this is one area of expertise that we have.
Right.
Um, Growth is not something that you can just stumble upon. As we've been building towards it, you understand how much of a challenge growth is.
Hmm.
As the adage goes, without uh, failing to plan is planning to fail.
Hmm.
So we at the Black Box, we do something called as helping companies design their growth. We have a mix of traditional analytical thinking
Hmm.
and marrying that with creative thinking to really help companies
Right.
design their growth. And when we help companies on this journey, we are really looking for companies to answer three key questions in their plan.
Hmm.
The first is, what is the purpose of the organization? It is a really difficult question for small and medium-sized businesses to answer because they're so involved in their day-to-day operations
Right.
that it's hard for them to look at what their business means to them and for the other stakeholders around them.
Right.
However, the answer to this question is critical because it provides the framework for the management team as well as everybody in the organization to base their decisions on.
Right.
The second key question in a plan is, what is the path that the company is going to take
Right.
to deliver on its purpose?
Right.
Now, we know business is not done one specific way, and there are many different ways of achieving the purpose.
Right.
However, there are specific ways which work for one organization versus the other.
Right.
So this requires a lot of thought and effort to identify which plan works best for that organization.
Right.
And finally, defining what does success look like. It becomes difficult for people to assess if the path that they're on is really being successful or not.
Right.
In the instances where success is hard to achieve,
Right.
it may require either a different path or an adaptation of the current path towards something else.
Wow. I think it's all about, it boils down to asking yourself the right questions, getting the basics right, the why, who, what, and how. And I think, especially for a small business owner, because as you correctly mentioned, you're so involved in your day to day tasks that often it becomes a little difficult for you to understand the impact that you are creating. But from an outsider perspective, you can look at it at a much bigger spectrum. Now, that was really insightful, Nada. Many businesses assume that just planning is just, about setting targets, making a doc sheet, but it's clear that there's so much more to it. That leads me to another question. Now, often businesses, they create ambitious growth plans, right? As you said, they don't know what success looks like, but they fall short in execution, right? Because as a human, I think it's a human tendency to just get happy by planning, right? You release some hormones which give your mind the same level of happiness, but in actually doing something, it's a whole level, like a whole different story, right? Now, what is most common mistakes or the most common misconceptions that businesses make when they're planning for growth?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. I thought about this question a lot. And
Hmm.
really, I can think of three major things that we have experienced during a planning journey.
Hmm.
The first is when people don't take enough risks. These are people that are short sighted in their efforts.
Right.
They realize that their current products and markets are successful
Hmm.
and they don't need to think beyond. However, we know we're living in a constantly changing business environment, and what is successful today may not be successful tomorrow.
Tomorrow, right?
So, such organizations can achieve short term success. However, they would not have laid the foundation for longer term success. The other common mistake we see is having unrealistic goals. In the spirit of having a bold mindset, a lot of companies will set really, really lofty
Right.
targets,
Right.
but it's not grounded in the reality of the business
Right.
or the environment that the business is operating in.
Right.
In such instances, the organizations fall way short of achieving their targets, and it leads to a lot of frustration within the organization.
Hmm.
And finally, there's a notion that all plans are set in stone. They're not flexible, they're not adaptable, and they're very static. Now, again, we're living in a very complex environment. Things keep changing every day. And if we're not responding to the changing market conditions, we can't respond swiftly and appropriately to changes. As an example, we were working with a community hospital
Hmm.
who was looking for what is their new operating model going to look like.
Hmm.
The neighborhood in which they were operating in had transformed a lot, and there were pressures of funding to that organization. We did an exercise with them on
Hmm.
scenario planning,
Okay.
where we crafted a whole bunch of scenarios based on different factors that might keep changing.
Right.
This gave the management team the confidence of what to expect going forward.
Got it.
They
You give
were
them a threshold to look at.
exactly,
Right.
and then they were able to figure out what might be the appropriate response for any one of these different situations.
Hmm.
And what led them to was a very definite choice on which operating model to follow that is very flexible and adaptable
Right.
as things change in the future.
So that provided them with utmost clarity, is what you're saying, right?
That is correct.
Great. Now, a solid plan is essential, but a well executed plan is what drives results, right? Planning without execution is just theory. High growth companies focus not just on strategy, but on building processes that turn ideas into action. How are you executing your business goals? Now, let's talk about what makes execution successful. Right now, McKinsey and Company reports that 70% of strategic initiatives fail due to poor execution, not poor strategy. So, even if your strategy is nice, your execution might fail the strategy only, right? How does the Black Box Institute help clients, execute strategic plans effectively?
Yeah, there are three key areas where we provide our expertise and guidance.
Mhm.
The first is we are very good at taking big overarching goals and breaking them down into smaller chunks,
Mhm.
making smaller actionable timelines, project plans, and key performance indicators.
Right.
When we break down a bigger problem into smaller problems,
Mhm.
the businesses feel better because they're constantly achieving these smaller targets
Right.
on their way to a bigger target.
Right.
Second area where we bring our expertise is because of our experience in working across a wide variety of industries,
Hmm.
we know what are the best practices and the common pitfalls a company may encounter during their strategy execution.
Right. You're already experienced, right? So you help them not to fall. Yeah.
Exactly, it really accelerates their process of strategy
Right.
execution. Finally, and most importantly, strategic execution is just not the responsibility of a select few within an organization.
Hmm.
We really encourage businesses to include their people and empower them to execute on certain aspects of the strategy, if not everything.
Right.
This brings the people along on this strategy journey ride, and they get a sense of satisfaction And frankly, it has been amazing to see people go above and beyond to pursue these ambitious growth targets.
Right now, expanding on this, one of the biggest challenges in execution is ensuring alignment among stakeholders as well, right? Now, from leadership, teams to, frontline employees, stakeholders have a huge deal to play when it comes to execution. How do organizations, Nada, ensure that all stakeholders buy into the execution plan and, everyone's on the same page?
Yeah, for a successful execution plan, everything needs to be working in
Right,
harmony with each other. If the stakeholders are not along for the ride, that's your first point of failure.
right,
Um, in our experience, the best practice in bringing stakeholders along
hmm,
is a three-step process. Very
okay,
simple. Businesses need to engage all stakeholders early in their strategy planning journey.
right,
Secondly, being open, clear, transparent, and honest about the growth aspirations of the business.
right,
And in turn, seeking advice from all stakeholders
hmm,
on solving this problem of growth.
right,
Finally, frequent communications along this journey. When businesses follow this three-step model, what leads to is a clear and transparent mode of communication,
right,
which allows all of the stakeholders to internalize the strategic direction of the company. They're able to visualize how their role is going to evolve.
right.
And finally, they can prepare on how they can contribute to the success of the organization. And that is really the way how you bring all of the stakeholders along on your strategy journey.
Wow, you make it sound so simple and so easy, and that's the way it should be, ideally. Because, as you mentioned clearly here, a lot of the conversation it gets lost in miscommunication when you're not, having a frequent conversation with the stakeholders about it, getting updates, or you should touch base with them every few days, weeks, whatever works for you. But yes, all those points were very useful, and thank you so much for sharing them with our listeners. Now, execution is where strategies come to life. Getting all stakeholders on board, is key to long term success. Nida, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation. Now, what would it be, if you could give one key advice to small business owners who are looking to grow in 2025 but don't know where to start from?
Absolutely. Every single business person that we talk to, from owners to management teams,
Right,
everybody has a common aspiration of how do you find growth? How do you execute growth?
right,
When we look at their businesses, we see that they have all the ingredients necessary that is required for their growth. They have the necessary competencies,
right,
they have the necessary capabilities, and more importantly, they have the talent that is necessary for growth. But everybody has a growth challenge.
right.
Now, a few years ago, we worked with an organization that was a leader in its sector.
Hmm.
However, the industry had gone into a mature space
Right.
and the company had not seen any growth for a decade.
Hmm.
So obviously, we worked with the management team.
Right,
We followed our best practices in planning. We gave them a plan and we were helping them on their execution journey.
right,
However, there was no significant change in that organization in a year of trying to execute on the strategy.
okay,
When we dug deeper, we realized that people were slow to act on these strategic initiatives. But more importantly, there was no mindset, there was no buy in
hmm,
that success or growth was achievable across the organization.
hmm,
There had never been a mindset shift from running a steady ship to being on this roller coaster ride and really growing on the growth journey. So we identified a group of managers that exhibited the bold mindset.
okay,
We empowered them and only them to execute on the strategy of the organization.
right,
Very soon we started to see results. And when the company started to see more result, the rest of the organization followed suit. In the few years that we worked with them, the company was able to multiply its value multiple times.
wow,
So, my advice to businesses in 2025, have a purpose, make a solid plan, but really empower your people so that they can boldly go where they have not gone before, because that is how businesses will achieve greatness.
Wow, that was a perfect answer, I'd say. Before we let you go, one last question that sprouts in my mind here is we were talking so much about, people being the biggest asset a company can have, right? Now, with the AI talks all over, a lot of businesses, they have started to not hire employees because AI can do their work, right? What is your stand on this? And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just a perspective. But I'd really want to dive into your mindset and just see how you think about it.
Absolutely. I think we've thought about the use of AI in an organization a lot,
Right.
and we still believe that for businesses to achieve great things, we need the human touch.
Right.
We need the creativity that a human mind can provide because we're still living in a complex world. AI is really good with doing day-to-day activities and
Repetitive
tasks.
tasks, right?
Exactly. And I believe me, definitely as a professional,
Yeah.
I would like AI to do my repetitive tasks.
Right. Yeah.
um, However, where I can add value and where I believe a lot of people can add value is really the human touch and the human mindset, which AI can definitely not provide. So, yes, AI may be taking over our jobs, but it is an opportunity for us to really deeply think about what is the value we bring? What is the value we bring that is just beyond our job title? Because that is really critical for us as humans to
Right.
find a place in this AI enabled world.
Great. That was a fantastic answer again. Thank you so much for Nida for being here and doing this.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Kripa. This was a pleasure. And yeah, I hope Canadian businesses will find their growth in 2025.
Definitely they will. Amen. That was a fantastic conversation with Nida Haque from the Black Box Institute on designing for growth. We explored challenges of scaling a business, the role of people in sustainable growth, and how execution makes all the difference. A special thank you to our podcast partners RBC, UPS, IHG Hotels and Resorts, and Google for supporting small business conversations like this one. For more expert insights, visit CanadianSME.ca and subscribe to our podcast. See you in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.